So there are some people, according to PW Torch, that WWE was interested in bringing over from TNA, and this is kind of what the PW Torch is saying how far that's going. Number one was Rob Van Dam, and it simply said WWE is interested in bringing him back. My personal point of view, I hope not. What do you guys think?
I don't really want to see RVD come back to the WWE because all he's going to be used for is enhancement talent. I don't see him getting another run with the world title or doing any big feuds that lead up to a WrestleMania match.
What do you think, Dace?
I can honestly care less if he comes back or not. I mean, I enjoy Van Dam, but he's more of a guy that he would end up in like Morrison did. He just puts people over and just kind of like a back burner guy.
He's burning something else, I think.
And he smokes it.
The other one that I just flat out don't see the reason for is the Pope. It says officials were interested earlier last year when he was being pushed, but not so much anymore. And I think this is kind of pointless. And the fact that they worded it that way speaks volumes. Rob Van Dam comes back to WWE for a quick little thing at the Royal Rumble that one year. I think it was 2009. And then he doesn't really do anything else. He goes over to TNA, and then it seems like just because he's in TNA that they're thinking about bringing him back. And then it comes with the Pope. Pope is getting pushed. They're interested. Not so much anymore when he's not getting pushed as much. Now, he has a pay-per-view match. We'll talk about that later. But to me, if they can't figure out a way to use Rob Van Dam, there's no point in bringing him back. And if they couldn't have figured out equally a way to use Elijah Burke when they were pushing him and when he had a lot of focal point and he was a big name on a shitty brand, then there's no point in bringing him back now because they're clearly not going to do anything with him.
I think it's all to do with politics. The Pope can work, but there's just been circumstances where he just keeps thrown down, which is the sad part. He's a good talent. He can really work, and he's got a lot of personality.
Mm-hmm.
He just needs the right push.
Any thoughts, Stace?
I think he does better in TNA. I know TNA is not a great show, but they look at these guys, they want to bring them over, and they're just going to squander them just because they can.
Yeah, it's almost as if they want to take them to spite TNA as opposed to being interested.
Yeah.
So there goes Rob Van Dam, there goes the Pope, another one of them, and this one was we're not interested, it's Samoa Joe. And here, I'm going to actually give a little bit of credit here. This will be my positive thing number 2. I think that Samoa Joe... Now, let me think of a way to word this that isn't too damn positive. All right. I think Samoa Joe is not getting enough credit from WWE here. Now, I don't think if he came over to WWE, he'd be a big star, but I think that he's worth looking at when it comes to WWE. And if it weren't for his weight, he should be a WWE superstar. Now, he's a bigger name in TNA. A lot of these, it's kind of the same running thing here, where they're bigger names in TNA, and if they go over to WWE, it's not going to be worth it for them. And WWE won't do anything with them, so why bother? And Samoa Joe is kind of one of those names. If TNA can't figure out what to do with him, and they should be pushing him, then if he goes to WWE, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to send him to FCW, and they're going to tell him that he's too fat, and they're going to change his gimmick, and then they're going to bring him in as a heel, and then lose interest in him. And I think Samoa Joe is better than that.
Yeah, I think he would get Umaga a chance if he showed up, because that's exactly what WWE would do with him.
What do you think, Mike?
I think basically the guy is one hell of a talent. But I do agree with you with the weight issue, because he's not exactly he doesn't have a bod that would scream WWE. But saying that, neither does a guy like Punk or someone like Bryan. So he could, make a good effort over there, but he hasn't done anything to make himself look like someone who would stand out, if that makes any sense. He's got all the talent in the world, but his promos as well are just. He seems like someone who would easily get lost in the shuffle.
Mm. And I think that even though CM Punk, who's apparently a good friend of Samoa Joe, has that pull with the company now, I think the whole reason that there isn't any interest from WWE is the look and the fact that he doesn't have a big push coming in TNA right now to make them go, ooh, well, maybe we can steal them away from him,
Well, it's the same goes with guys like Beer Money, and they want to push them, but they don't want them as a tag team, and they don't see these guys as full-time wrestlers.
Well, Beer Money is on the list as well, both James Storm and Robert Roode, and it says that WWE had interest in bringing them in last year as a tag team, but they're not interested in making them singles wrestlers. Now, I personally wish they would go to WWE as a tag team, but I'm not the biggest fan of James Storm when it comes to him as a singles wrestler. I like Roode, but I don't really like Storm on his own. I don't think Storm on his own would be pretty much anything in WWE. I think Roode would have a shot, but then again, Roode's like 35 or so he's kind of, they wouldn't want to put that much into him now, considering how he's at like that, not necessarily the twilight of his career, but they typically like to groom somebody from like the age 28 or so. So another one that I completely don't see happening. What do you think?
For me, I would say both guys would have a chance, but I don't feel that they would get to the World Championship status that they've tasted in TNA. I don't even feel they would actually main event. I'd see them better as tag team and mid card if they go over to WWE. Maybe, just maybe, they might have a better success over in SmackDown than they would if they got placed on Raw. But again, it's depending if they can actually branch out from what they're actually doing in TNA at the moment, because TNA doesn't get that many ratings and it's not as big as the WWE machine. So it would have to be tried and tested. But as a tag team, I think they would, the sky's the limit. It's like the Dudleys, really, if you think about it. Can't do anything as singles wrestlers, but as a tag team, they could speak volumes.
All right, so Storm and Roode in WWE, what do you think, Dace? Do you think that they got a shot, or do you think that if they're not going to bring them in as tag team wrestlers, then that's kind of pointless as well?
Yeah, they need to rebuild the tag team division in WWE, and Beer Money Inc. would be a great addition to it. Unfortunately, they're both at a point in their career where they're finally breaking out as single stars. So for them, it's not worth it. And if they come over in a tag team, at best, they would probably only hit US or IC title.
See, exactly my point.
And then that brings us to when you were talking about the Dudleys. Bully Ray, it says, WWE has shown some interest in the former tag team champion. No word yet if they're interested in bringing Ray back with Devon as Team 3D or just on his own. Once again, I think they'd be better back as a tag team. But at the same time, and here's going to be my third positive, I think Bully Ray's doing the best work that he's probably ever done. And he's a singles competitor, and he's known for the tag team stuff. I think that he is better off staying in TNA as well because he's because he's better in his spot in TNA right now as one of their biggest names than he would be anything in WWE right now. I think that that's kind of an insult to what he's been doing well if he would go back to WWE and just go back as another Team 3D guy.
Now go on, Dice.
I completely agree with Tony. That's exactly my thoughts.
Damn right you do. You going to argue against me, Mike? Or you're going to agree with me too?
I'm going to go against you on this one because I tend to disagree a little bit. basically, no, I agree what you're saying that he is one of TNA's biggest names, but he could probably, in this stage of his career, could make more money being in the mid card in the WWE than he would being in the main event in TNA.
Yeah, but if you've already made enough money, I'm assuming that he's made enough that he can kind of retire on his own. If he was struggling for money, he would go to WWE because TNA is notorious for not paying shit. So if he's got enough money, then you just have to argue whether or not he wants to do a couple years left and then end in WWE, which if he did, it'd be better to go to WWE, or if he's more interested in staying there for a while and being a top guy in TNA and trying to get the world title. Because if he goes to WWE, he's got no shot at winning a world title. He stays in TNA, he could be a main eventer. I mean, he practically is right now.
But again, the same could have been said for Mark Henry.
Well, I always thought Mark Henry deserved it.
I did as well, but again, a lot of naysayers said that he didn't, that the guy didn't deserve the belt, and he still won it, and he did a hell of a job with it.
Yeah, but they weren't me.
Yes, Tony, it all revolves around you.
Yeah, right, my show.
What I think is when it comes to guys like Bully Ray and Kurt Angle and stuff, there's probably a point in their career where they start thinking, when do I go back to be in the Hall of Fame?
Right.
And I don't think he's ready. He's at that point yet. And if he did, he would come back with Devon, and they would go in as a tag team.
Well, they'd have to go as a tag team because there's no way that they have the credentials on their own to go as singles competitors. I mean, we're not going to... Well, then again, we had Coco Beware, so that kind of throws everything out the window, doesn't it?
Yeah, but at the same time, that's probably the only reason WWE is interested in them. Because they would be like a very credible tag team to induct one year.
Well, they have been paying more attention to tag teams lately. I mean, they're still with the Air Boom tag team, despite the problems that they've been having. They've got the Epico and Primo, the Unico and Camacho, and they're still doing the tag team thing. So I think between Storm and Bully Ray and Devon, and then the ones we'll talk about next, and Gank, that it's more so that they wanted them to bring them over to be a credible tag team in WWE and help the other guys out and kind of just use them for what they're known for, which I can't blame them, but as opposed to being like, let's bring Bully Ray over here because he's so great,
Mm-hmm.
So that brings us to... Oh, all right.
If they would... Let me put a scenario to you. Would you main event a company that's not really the best wrestling company out there, but number 2 by default? Or would you like to actually go to WrestleMania as a tag team champion?
Oh, well, there's no question without it. Personally, I would be in WWE. I'd rather be a jobber in WWE than mid-carder in TNA.
So again, it might look tempting to Bubba Ray at the moment, because I know that Devon's thinking about it. I wouldn't see why not.
Well, that brings us to Inc. Inc., and it says that they don't really care too much about Jesse Neal, but they were thinking about Shannon Moore. And I think, and this is going to be repetitive because I keep saying this for all of them, kind of pointless because they had Shannon Moore for all those years and did nothing with him. And I really can't see them pushing him past a mid-carder anyway. So why bother again?
Because Shannon has a sort of a unique look.
Anybody can do that, though.
He tends to sort of stand out from everybody else. And when it comes to him and Neal's come a long way for someone who's really, really green. He's still green, but he's actually done a hell of a lot more with his career than someone else in his position. Say like, I don't know, off the top of my head, Derek Bateman. So, I wouldn't see why not. And there'll be a good addition to the tag team rankings in the WWE.
Thoughts on that, Dace and King?
Like I said, they're trying to build the tag team division. They might as well because they've got some momentum in that company right now. You can at least either start, well, I don't know how you would start from scratch with people that are already tattooed up, but if they're really legitimately, because it seems like every 5 years they get into this, they want to rebuild that tag team division, I would bring them in. But I don't know. It's a new regime really running the show.
Yeah, we'll have to see. And then the very last of these is Matt Morgan. And it says they were thinking about bringing him in last year, and he decided to stick with TNA. And Matt Morgan is one of those guys that a couple of years ago, I really wanted him to go over to WWE because I didn't think he was getting that main event run that he should have in TNA. And I think that he should be a main eventer in TNA. But he is another one where he was in WWE, they didn't push him. Now he's gotten older. He's not that big of a name where bringing him into WWE is really going to help them out. It's more so WWE being able to have one more big guy. And they've got enough big guys. I mean, they've got Mason Ryan, who they're trying to groom. They've got Brodus Clay, who they keep pushing away over and over again. They've got Skip Sheffield that they're really high on despite his long injury. So they don't really need him.
Again, it's one of those things where Morgan's been waiting ages for a world title run in TNA, which he keeps getting put back on the back burner so they can put it on somebody else. And because the way the company's mentality has been for the last couple of years, where they just keep throwing it on like an established talent, I don't see Morgan actually getting the belt anytime soon now. Because
even in TNA?
Yeah, even in TNA, because they're throwing it on other people. That's why they've given him the belt for Ring Car King instead, just to appease the guy. If I was him, I would look at the WWE payday instead of beating a dead horse in TNA, because he's not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah, and I'm sure TNA would probably just bring him back anyway if he went to WWE and pulled a Chris Harris.
Yeah,
or should I say a Braden Walker?
If he won a world title in the WWE or even won a mid-card title, they'll push him to the moon. But for some reason, someone is a big Morgan detractor, even though we don't know who it is. But every push he's ever had just kept stalling.
So do you want to see him back in WWE days, stuttering and doing all that nonsense?
I think it would be best for him because, like Michael was saying, he's stalled in TNA, and if you stall in TNA, you're fucked. So even if he comes back and just like he takes the Drew McIntyre turn and just only comes on Superstars or something, it's better than what he's doing now. At least he's stalling in the WWE.
And at least with WWE, you've got more chances to win a world title than you do in TNA. Because they have the MITB, they have the Royal Rumble, they have like the normal process going up through the mid-card ranks and then getting thrown into the main event after that. There's so many ways for him to actually get to that position there, where with TNA, there's not even a mid-card. There's either the X Division title or the TNA World title or the tag titles, and they keep throwing the tag titles on him.
Well, we've got like a dozen people that are listed here, and I honestly can't see any of them coming back to WWE unless it's down the line. I mean, Rob Van Dam, I can see coming back to WWE maybe 2 years from now. I can see Team 3D maybe coming back in 2 years or something like that. But I'm not seeing anybody that's a TNA homegrown type of guy, like a Samoa Joe or James Storm and Robert Roode. I don't think that any of them are coming over. So
I think Roode probably because he knows he's got it good in TNA at the moment. Same with Storm. But I do see the other names actually giving it a decent shot. Even if there's a small bit of interest. Look at Neil. Neil's just parted ways with TNA. And he's concerned over his medical bills and everything like that. Because as you stated before, TNA have basically screwed him over when his neck ended up having an operation on his neck, and he's ended up paying all the bills on that. He's literally told people that he's been using food stamps to live on.
Well,
so if I had a choice between the WWE's paycheck and TNA bouncing their checks, I'll go WWE.
So that brings us to the end of the show in the last segment that's going to pop up in a second with TNA Genesis predictions, and that'll be fun. So check out part 4 of episode 10 right now.